Welcome back to V8 Creative and part 3 of the Morgan three-wheeler build, and on this episode we are cooling the beast. Yes, welcome back to the Dean Den for more spannering on the Morgan three-wheeler. And on this episode, the focus is going to be on one of the most iconic parts of this vehicle, and that's the radiator and radiator cowl. It is the part of the car which you look at and go, I wonder if Rolls-Royce made that or had some input. It is a beautiful piece of art, and also handmade for my father, because most of the original rads, pretty much all of them, have all disintegrated over time. So what we're going to be doing is getting the rad, and we're sort of going to be cleaning it up because I haven't really cleaned it since I took it off the car, then repair a couple of items because the rigors of time have broken one or two brackets off. Then we're going to do some pressure testing, and then I'm going to show you how the system works. No water pump. This is probably the most basic type of water cooling on any car ever in existence. But keep tuned and I'll reveal all. Yes, welcome to the assembly bench and this amazing component here. It is a piece of art. It's handmade, and really it represents British craftsmanship. Now the construction is brass, copper, a bit of steel, and what you have is this lovely shape. So the radiator's in the middle here, and then this lovely highly polished cowl that goes across the top and down the sides. Now in this area here, this is the top tank, and of course there's a very nice screw top. Yeah, I can cross thread this as well. Why did they like all their fine threads? That goes on there like that. Here we have a lovely Super Sport Morgan badge, and then at the bottom you will see there is a second tank, and basically connecting the two are these rods, and on the rods are hundreds and hundreds of little fins, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 deep either side. And I tell you what, there's a good amount of weight in it. Now when I emptied this and took it off the car, I'll show you a picture there of what the coolant looked like, and I must say it looked pristine. Honestly, it really did. And if I look inside here, I'll give you a shot in a minute, it's lovely. It really is. I haven't put clean through this. I've just basically drained it. Now what you'll see here is 2 inlets at the top and 2 outlets at the bottom, and I'll explain a bit later how this works on the car. Here there's a little drain plug that unscrews, and on the back what we have is the top here. This is where a small rubber bobbin goes, which actually connects to the bodywork. And at the bottom there were 2 right angle brackets here. Unfortunately they are no more. When I took the car apart, these had departed from the radiator, one on the solder joint and one on the right angle, obviously where it fatigued. Now clearly what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to replace these 2 brackets, and I have purchased a lovely piece of copper here to do this, and to do it I've got some kit. I've got my blowtorch, I've got loads of flux, solder, and then I thought let's buy the biggest soldering iron I can get. So I may use this or I may use the blowtorch, it just depends, but we'll go through that process in a minute, and basically we'll put on 2 brand new brackets. Now this thing needs cleaning. I'll do some close-ups. It's pretty nasty, but the whole component is in pretty good shape actually. So it held water obviously for the 8 years it was in storage. So it was full up steel. But what I am going to do later is I'm going to pressure test this. So not super high pressure, but enough for us to see if there's any leaks. Now, apart from the radiator, the other components of the cooling system are these two right-angled pipes. These come out of the top of the two cylinders, and basically they go there, and then connecting them is two rubber sections. Then at the bottom of the cylinders, there's these two little, well, what would you call them? Unions, basically. And Dad has, he's built these. These are copper and soldered onto these brass sort of, I don't know what you call them, connection points. They're beautiful. Now, this was connected to the car using the two brackets on the bottom, but just look at this. These were spacers. Aren't they beautiful? They're bits of ash. And this is what 40 years of grease does to ash. These things would never rot. If you left them out in the open for like 100 years, they'd still look the same. But we're going to keep those and use them. Yeah, they got that. My dad's smell about them. Also, between this and the bodywork, there was this sort of beading, which is pretty rank. So I've replaced that with some new beading here, which will pop on. And naturally, all the rubber had basically deteriorated. Here you can see the indents of the old rusty Jubilee clips, which are gone also. And I've got some brand new coolant pipe, which is just the right size. And of course, new Jubilee clips. Also, where the rad mounted on the chassis, there was some rubber, which long past had deteriorated and was horrible. So I've got some new high density rubber strip, where what we're going to do is make sure this is bedded down 100% securely, so we don't get an issue with those two bottom brackets breaking again. Right, the next thing we're going to do is clean this up before I start handling it loads. And I've got a degreasing tray, lots of degreasing fluids. Petrol is always a good thing to get crap off of stuff. Anyway, let me put some gloves on and let's get to it.
Where we're heading, where the story goes, you just gotta hold on to your path. What feels right in your heart and your soul. I know you always wanna do what's right. I know you rather wanna flight than fight. But every now and then you gotta pause. Ask yourself, is this right? Stand your ground. You say, I wanna be the hero, 'cause I don't wanna give up. Now I am down at zero. When will it ever stop? I'm only human. How am I supposed to cope? One bad decision, I'm running out of rope. No one ever knows where we heading, where the story goes. I just gotta hold on to my path. What feels right in my heart and my soul. I wanna be the hero, 'cause I don't wanna give up. But when I'm down at zero, will it ever stop? I'm only human. Yeah. How am I supposed to cope? Oh, one bad decision,
Right, now we're going to trial fit the radiator. I've just flicked off the old solder that was holding the old brackets on, and you saw one of the brackets that, like, the remains of it was still there. So I've got those off now, and I think I've discovered why they actually broke. Because the rad itself is suspended up here by a bobbin, rubber. How it's connected to the engine is from rubber pipe. So really these two connection points down here are like a solid connection, and my dad had bolted them directly on there. So what I'm going to do is actually put a large rubber washer in so there is a slight amount of movement. So the first thing to do, we're going to pop on our spacers. I'm not going to worry about the self-tapping screws at the moment. All right, now I've got this piece of wood. I'm just going to pop there to see if, I'm guessing, what spacer is going to be required, and then I'm going to pop this. Oh, isn't that amazing? And that's perfect. I'll just leave that bit of wood in there, shall I? That wants to sit like that. So what I've got to do, I'm going to make a spacer up on the bottom so it sits on it with a bit of rubber, I think. See, this fits perfectly. It's flush up here. That's what it needs to be. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that with my trusty blue tape. 3M, if you're watching, still open to sponsorship. Okay, what we're going to do now is dive in here. I don't know how I'm going to get the camera in there, but I'll try, because what I need to do is make up some cardboard brackets which is going to attach this to the chassis. And then what I'll do is I'll replicate those with the metal I've purchased, and then we'll solder it on there. Yeah. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Well, if I've put in a central heating system, surely this can't be that difficult. Right, I'll take you around the other side so you can see in there. I'll get some light in there somehow, and we'll give it a go. Okay, so we can see the spacers here, the wood, and then we just need two little brackets here. One there and one there. So the next job is to accurately drill a hole in this bracket to accept this stud. But what I'm going to do is over drill the size of this. So what we can do is put a rubber grommet on this to isolate the rad from the body. And that will mean these won't fracture again in the future. So let me get some masking tape on this and then we'll mark it. Okay, now I need to mark where those brackets go. Let's get some masking tape. I'm quite pleased with that. I'll just clean that up. I was trying not to put too much heat on it because I didn't want to affect all these other solder joints, but everything seems to have stayed quite well. Right, now, this is the test. Are they going to line up? Let's see. Right, here we go. Oh, I'm pleased with that. Right, as you can probably tell, I'm a bit hot. It's one of those hot days in the UK. The 3 or 4 we get a year. And with the blowtorch, everything got a bit hot in the Dean den. But anyway, I'm quite proud of that. That just fitted like a glove. And if you're an engineer watching this and you know when you're measuring, sometimes you just got to make that leap of faith, drill that hole and hope things line up. And it has perfectly. I am so pleased with this. Dad would be pleased with that as well, I know. So how does this cooling system actually work? It is so simple. As I said before, there is no water pump, there are no electric fans, and all there is this small assembly here. That's it. Now, how this operates is it uses a principle called thermosiphon circulation. Now, there's probably a clue in the name there for you. So let's think about where the water starts its journey. So if we look here, these are the two, obviously the two cylinders of the V-twin, and in here are water jackets. These are basically areas around the cylinder and the valves, which are actually cavities where water can flow. Now, as the water's inside these jackets, what happens is it heats up, clearly, because the fuel and air is being ignited, and a lot of that energy is turned into heat. What happens then is this hot water wants to rise. It just does. Anything hot wants to go up. So if you imagine these two are connected. So the hot water comes out of here, goes into the top tank of this radiator, and the same happens on both sides. So the hot water goes into this top tank, and of course then it wants to fall down these multiple tubes. Now, as this hot water falls down here, the flow of the air going through these small washers cools the water, and then the water drops to the bottom tank, by which time it is significantly cooled. And then in the bottom tank there are two outlets that go straight into the bottom of the water passageways and jackets in the cylinders, and then this cooler water takes heat away from the combustion, heats up, rises, and basically goes back into the rad at the top. So what you get is this circulation, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And it's very effective. And when this engine came out with this basic setup, at the time it was looked as the best engine to put in these cars, and hence probably why my dad selected it for his own three-wheeler Morgan. Very simple, very straightforward, and not a lot to go wrong, just as I like it. Right, the next stage of the process is to check whether this radiator has any leaks. I don't think it has, but I want to double and triple check before I install it on the car. Now, this system doesn't work under pressure. However, the best way to identify any leaks on these, I don't know how many there must be probably 100 solder joints on this, is to block up all the exit and entry holes, and then use this, basically this pressure tester, to pump in about 5 psi, not a lot, and then just leave it sealed for a few hours and see if the pressure drops. If the pressure doesn't drop, you know this thing is watertight, literally. Now, what I've done is, I've done a bit of plumbing here. So on these exits here, I'm going to use some of this tube with Jubilee clips, and then on the ends, I'm going to pop on, it's going to look like, I don't know, like an alien or something when I've done all this. And then this will be on one of these inlets, and we'll fill it with water and we'll just pump it up and see. Right, we're ready for the pressure test now. I've never done this before, so what could possibly go wrong? Now, I've spared you me putting on all these little arms, but basically this is to seal up the system. There is also a little sort of overflow that I've blocked under here. So now this should be completely sealed. Now I'm going to put some water in here, I'm going to fill it up, put the cap on, and then we're going to crank this up and see what pressure, well, not what pressure I can get to, I'll just take it to 5 psi and then just leave it. So let's put some water in her. Oh, the watering can's leaking. Great. Takes a lot of water. You can hear the air coming through. There it comes. Well, look at that. Right, let's pop this on. Getting used to that fine thread now. And just mop up all this water, because that's how I'm going to detect a leak. Well, the good news is there's no leaks at the moment. Okay, right, let me get some more water. Need a new watering can. Let's put water in this. Let's get rid of this, it's leaking all over my garage. Now I guess what I need to do is open this end, pump it through so I get all these tubes full of water, then close this off, and then, I guess, I don't know. Let's give that a go. I need something for this to go into now. You can just imagine in the comments, you're not supposed to do it like that. Right, let's open this up. Okay, now, if that should pump water through, which it is. That's good. So let me shut that off. Okay, and then
Two hours later.
I've got 3 psi in there. 0 leaks. 0 leaks. Yes, another episode of the Morgan three-wheeler build draws to a close. And welcome to any of you new to the channel. Please subscribe, please put thumbs up, and also that little notification bell, because it helps me actually be promoted by YouTube. So there's more viewers, and basically it helps support the channel. So next week we're going to be moving on to another part of the Morgan. I haven't decided yet. I tend to do that over a beer late in the evening once I've finished all my editing. So until next time, as I always say, keep smiling and enjoy your spannering.
You get everybody staring for days. All they see is just a young, pretty face. But I'm trying to get to know you much better. Don't matter how much time it will take. But there's